I'm Susan Painter, and I'm the director of the Victim Witness Assistance Program for Albemarle County. Theo came to be our courthouse dog in June of 2014. He was an extremely laid-back dog. People who thought they were afraid of dogs or just didn't like dogs soon overcame that when they met Theo, because he was just a cool dog and people liked to be around him. Theo's role was to provide a calming influence for victims and witnesses, especially children going through the criminal justice process. He provided emotional support, reduced anxiety, and maybe was even a bit of a positive distraction for the victim when they were getting ready for court and meeting with us. Theo had an uncanny knack for knowing who needed him. Often the prosecutor, the detective, and I would meet with victims and usually their family members before court and preparing for court. And Theo would seem to know who needed him and would go to that person and sit beside them. And he especially loved it when we were in a room sitting around a conference table, because he would like to go under the table and would lay on their feet as we met and as we talked. And that was a big comfort to the victim too. Even though it was a bit of a weight on their feet, they liked having him there because it was a real comfort to have that presence there. As I think about the many people that Theo came in contact with and helped, I think about a young woman who was a victim of rape, and we were preparing for court in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and she was having a really hard time recounting for the Commonwealth Attorney about the assault that had happened to her. And Theo sat in front of her, and they were almost eye to eye, and she just started petting him and rubbing him, and the words just spilled out, and she was able to tell us what had happened and prepare for her testimony that way. It was really very emotional and amazing to see that happen, because that was early on in his career with us. Another time we had a child victim of sexual assault, and the little girl had met Theo on a previous visit to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. But for some reason, this particular day she was there, Theo wasn't at work that day, and the little girl wouldn't talk. She absolutely just refused to talk. And so we had to reschedule our meeting for a day when Theo would be there. Another child we were preparing to testify in court, and the judge had ruled that she could testify via closed circuit TV, that was a hurdle that we had overcome, and so that was great. And that meant she didn't have to testify in the courtroom with the man who molested her just a few feet away. The judge also ruled that Theo could be with her in the room when she testified. So we worked it out, because I said that Theo loved tables and loved to be under the table. So she sat at a table with the prosecutor, and Theo got under the table and laid at her feet, and she was able to take her foot and rub him, which seemed to keep her calm while she was testifying. Even though it was closed circuit and she was just a couple people in the room, the fact that she could have that connection with Theo while she was telling her story was pretty amazing. The kids really seemed to feel empowered when Theo was with them, and like Theo was there to protect them, even though Theo would never harm anybody and had no idea even how to harm somebody, I don't think. But kids really felt protected and secure when he was around them, and so that gave them the strength and courage oftentimes to be able to tell their story and to testify as to what had occurred with them. Theo even had his own baseball card, and so people that met Theo loved to get one of his baseball cards. And this was taken early on in his career as well. So one of the other things that I think is important to know about Theo, and while it certainly wasn't his primary function, Theo was a great calmer and tension reducer and stress reliever for his coworkers as well. People that he worked with at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office and the police department absolutely loved Theo and loved when he was around. We are hopeful that we will be able to get a successor dog. There will never be another Theo. But we are working on that and hopeful that we can get another dog.